Yesterday, you watched a video, well, part of a video, over life in South Africa. And it was that lowest, that country that's furthest south on the African continent. And it followed the lives of some people, and you probably didn't watch all of it. You may not have got to watch 10, 15 minutes of it. It depends on how far you got with Monday's assignment. Um, you'll be able to finish that on Friday. But today I want to go into a little bit more detail about something called apartheid. So you watched, before you listened to this video, you watched the brain pop over apartheid. You present this. And so what apartheid is or was, it was a system of laws in South Africa that separated people of different races. So on page 725, this is what you'll see. And it actually starts on page 724. At the bottom of page 724, and if you don't have this open, pause the video right here and turn to page 724 and 725. But at the bottom of 724, the red subheading says Equal Rights in South Africa. It says, after independence, the growth of South Africa's mining and other industries depended on the labor of Black Africans who greatly outnumbered the country's whites. The white minority government stayed in power by limiting the Black population's educational and economic opportunities and political rights. So you had a great number of African people, Black Africans, but they were being controlled by the minority. So there were fewer. That's what minority means. The fewer number of white people that actually controlled the government. And then starting here at the top of page 725, it said English South Africans controlled the government until the end of World War II. And then a strike of Black miners frightened the white voters into electing an African government in 1948 that promised to take action. Sorry. In this new government, okay, hang on a second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take a drink. This says this new government had leaders that began enacting these laws called apartheid. Okay, and that's how you say it, apartheid, like you tied a knot. And apartheid is an Afrikaans word, meaning apartness. So what I want you to write, you picked up this paper today that it's a reading passage that looks like this. It says Gumboot Dance from South Africa. And this page says class set on it. But then you also picked up a page of questions that start with this one. So somewhere on this page, somewhere at the front or the back, because you only have questions 1 through 6, I want you to write this definition right here that I have. And I think, okay, sorry, I was making sure it's correct. So apartheid, I want you to write this apartheid definition somewhere on that Gumboot Dance question page, not on the page that says class set, but on the page that you're going to write on. Okay, so pause this video, write that definition for apartheid. So with this system of laws, this apartheid, it was almost like the United States before the civil rights movement. It was the separation of, Blacks lived here, Blacks could go here, they couldn't vote, things like that. And then you start to see this organization appear, okay? The African National Congress. It was an organization of Black South Africans, and they began this campaign of something called civil disobedience, which means they disobeyed certain laws as a way of protesting against, them not having equal rights. So they began protesting. The government responded violently to them. Okay, they were making these peaceful protests, but then the government came back with a violent response. So what that caused is it caused the ANC to then turn violent. And you might have heard of this man before, right here. His name is Nelson Mandela, and he was a leader. He was arrested. He was sentenced to life in prison, and he stayed in prison for a long, long time. Um, and then as the years passed, eventually we get someone in office by 1990. Keep in mind, he was arrested. Nelson Mandela was arrested in 1962. Finally, in 1990, this person right here began repealing the apartheid laws. And then 1991, so he was in prison from 1962 to 1991 just because he was protesting. I say just because he was protesting. It was a violent protest, okay? But he was in jail that long. Finally, he was released, and he eventually, in 1994, he became that country's president. So, and then in 1995, the new government created a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Its task was to ease racial tensions and heal the country by uncovering the truth about the human rights violations that had occurred under apartheid. So, there's a lot of comparisons to be made between apartheid and Nelson Mandela and the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King. They're both seen as very strong figures fighting for equal rights for everyone. All right, so that's all I'm going to talk about with apartheid. You've already watched that that brain pop. What I want you to do now, make sure you've written the definition, and then I want you to read this ReadWorks passage that says class setup here about something called gumboot dancing. It's really interesting. So this light yellow right here, that is South Africa. Remember, that's at the very, very southern tip of Africa. And so you've got this story, and it's really short. It just goes to right there. And it is because gumboot dancing came about because of those apartheid laws. So you'll read this story about gumboot dancing, and then you've got 6 questions talking about apartheid and talking about the gold mines, which is when the gumboot dancing is going to come about. And then there's going to be a link in Google Classroom that's going to take you to this video, and you can actually watch them perform a gumboot dance like they would have performed it back then. Okay, so you'll watch this. It's really, really an interesting style of dancing with their rubber boots. All right, let me get back to this screen. All right, and so that's what you're doing today. You watch the brain pop, you listen to this video, you're going to read this story and answer the questions, and then you're going to watch the gumboot dance video on YouTube. All right, and you'll hear me talk again tomorrow.